My name is Betsy Stein, and I will be reading Talking Walls, The Stories Continue, written by Margy Burns Knight and illustrated by Anne Sibley O'Brien. Each wall has a story to tell, of the people that built it and how it holds a community together or separates it. While some walls are symbolic of remembrance of loved ones past, other walls were built as physical barriers to keep people away for one reason or another. No matter its reason for existence, every wall shows the cultural characteristics seen as valuable and important by a certain people, whether it be to remember the past and express emotions through written quotes or drawings, or to depict our historical pasts and honor our ancestors. Walls can display a lot about a culture. This sequel to the award-winning Talking Walls will spark the curiosity of young readers as they learn about our world and explore its incredible diversity. With this book, I will be teaching students about the diversity of the world and the different values and expressions of those values through different cultural perspectives. The objective for this lesson will be that students will be able to compare and contrast different cultural practices and perspectives. This particular lesson is prepared for a 6th grade classroom. Before we begin reading Talking Walls, I would like to gain some insight as to what kinds of cultural walls my students are aware of. In order to do this, I will ask them to do a fast write. I will pose the question, name some famous walls that you have heard of. These walls can be anywhere in the world and can even be within your own town. After giving students 1 minute, I will ask for some examples. In case students are not willing to volunteer, I will have pictures of walls such as the Berlin Wall, the Great Wall of China, and the wall at the Vietnam Memorial. I would also include pictures of walls that could show up in their towns, such as a graffiti-covered wall, a wall to play racquetball against, and a rock wall. During reading aloud the book to the class, I will model a think aloud strategy. With any success, my students will learn the strategy through observation and will put it to use within their own reading. I will stop at unfamiliar words or phrases, make text-to-self connections, and things of the sort. With this particular book, there are words from other cultures that most students may not be familiar with. It is important to model my thinking here so that when they see similar words, they do not simply pass over them without thinking about them. Many people in India believe Lakshmi's spirit will protect their home if they paint their walls during Diwali, a Hindu festival of lights. I know that during 4th of July, the American Independence Day, my town has a festival with lots of lights and fireworks. Are they similar? And who is Lakshmi? Right now, I know that he or she can protect people, so maybe it is a leader or president. Maybe if I read on, I'll find out. Women and children please Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and prosperity, by sketching peacocks, lotuses, and elephants on their walls with paint made from rice flour and water. So I found out that Lakshmi is a goddess. I just hope she's not an art teacher too. I can't draw peacocks, lotuses, and elephants very well. A painting of a pyramid of rice, symbolic of the recent harvest, is often added to the wall. I know that we talked about pyramids in math class, like the ones in Egypt. During the evenings of this festival, small oil lamps, called diyas, are lit to also honor Lakshmi. Diwali is celebrated at the new moon that falls at the end of October or beginning of November. It marks the coming of the new year for Hindus all over the world. So I've heard of the Chinese New Year being different from my New Year. So Hindus have one too? And I now know that Hindus live in India, but where else do they live on Earth? After Diwali, rain, wind, and sun fade all the wall paintings. Every fall, they are painted again. Sounds kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch to me. In Tokyo, at the Shibuya train station, Japanese teens often tell their friends to meet them at the dog wall. I know I might tell my friends to meet me near the McGuffey statue outside of McGuffey Hall, so the dog wall is probably a common meeting place. The story of Hachiko, the Akita dog, is so popular in Japan that this mural and a statue have been dedicated to him. Every weekday morning, Hachiko would walk with his master, Professor Eno, to the train station. At 5 o'clock, the faithful dog would return to the station to greet his master, and they would walk home together. I think this story sounds a little familiar. I think they recently made a movie starring Richard Gere about this tale. One day in 1925, Professor Eno died from a stroke at the university. However, this did not stop the dog from taking his daily walks to the Shibuya station. Until Hachiko died 9 years later, the loyal dog continued to wait for his master every day. That must be why they call dogs man's best friend. Since Hachiko's death, there has been an annual ceremony at the Shibuya train station to honor him, and every night, the lights on the dog wall are turned on in memory of the dog who didn't forget his friend. What a neat way to pass on a story that has been around for 85 years. Due to time constraints for this project, I only read 2 of the passages from this book, but there are many different cultures represented that students will explore with the full text reading in class. After reading this story as a class, we will create a web on the chalkboard. I will ask students to give me categories of different things that different cultures put on their walls. Along with these categories, we will together point out some examples from the text in which specific cultures use these categories when writing on their walls. If I have little enthusiasm and volunteers for this part, I might start them off with a category myself, such as stories. I would then prompt my students, were there any examples of stories told through the walls of some cultures? Some examples could be of Pablo Neruda and how his father discouraged him to write. Another story of Hachiko is presented by the Japanese culture. Other categories that I thought of that are important to the walls in this book are history, with examples being the World War II tombstone wall in the Medina in Morocco, remembering, through the World War II tombstones, Pablo Neruda and honoring ancestors, religion, as exemplified by the Hindu god Lakshmi, and describing ourselves, as the immigrants did at Angel Island and through the anti-graffiti movement in New York. After students have pulled out these key practices and products of different cultures and the items represented on their walls, I will have students create their very own wall. But students are not free to write whatever they want. They must include the 5 categories mentioned above. They can draw or write anything appropriate as long as it pertains to their history, their personal stories through life, remembering people or places, their religion, and a description of themselves. I will show them the 2 examples of walls that are at the beginning and end of the book, as well as show them my own wall that I have created. I will explain how I included each part of the wall to ensure that they do the same thing. Hopefully, by getting students to recognize the different characteristics of these walls, they will be able to compare and contrast the different products and practices of various cultures.